Hello, everyone. Welcome to News Extra. Today, we're going to take one final look at the Tour de Nebraska, which is coming up later this week. And we wanted to have Brenda Leisy come in from the Scottsbluff County Tourism, as well as Karla Nieden-Streeks from Gering Convention and Visitors Bureau. Again, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
We've got things pretty well hammered out to what we can expect during the course of this event. Of course, it starts out in Sidney and makes its way through Kimball and then to Gering, specifically on the 21st.
The
20th, excuse me.
Correct.
The 20th. I keep getting my days and dates mixed up. So they'll be in town on Thursday, as I understand it.
Correct.
And there's going to be quite a number of things taking place once they do get into town, correct?
Correct. We've got, we talked to the Tour de Nebraska people, and we've got 460 riders registered for the race. So we'll see a lot of cyclists in Gering and Scottsbluff starting on Thursday and Friday. They will trickle into town throughout the day on Thursday. They'll be coming from Kimball. They have 3 rural rest stops before they'll get to us in Gering. And so they'll arrive mid-morning to early afternoon. We'll have some welcome events for them at Gering Junior High School, which is where their headquarters will be, as well as some events planned for them to do at their leisure time in the afternoon. They've got kind of some hospitality at the Union Bar with some entertainment the Thursday afternoon, 1 to 4. And then the big event for the riders will be Thursday night at Five Rocks Amphitheater. And it's burgers, brats, and bands at the Rocks. So all of the riders will be treated to a great meal of burgers and brats and all the trimmings catered by the meat shop. And then a fantastic lineup of local entertainment will perform on stage at Five Rocks then on Thursday evening. The event is open to the public if they'd like to come and have the meal and join the riders for the meal as well as the bands. Everything will start about 5:30, and then we'll have entertainment on stage, which will run till about 8:30 p.m.
Okay, now is there a cost to attending that event, at least for the public?
There is if they want to eat the meal. The cost of the meal is $10, but if the public just wants to come out and listen to the entertainment on stage, which we have a great lineup, we have some local bands. Theater West will be doing a performance. The band AZUCAR, which a lot of people are familiar with, Gypsy Whisper, and of course the Gering City Band is going to be on stage as well. And then we'll end up with Area Code 308. All of those will be performing on stage. If the public just wants to come and hear some great music and interact with the riders, that's free of charge.
Yeah, that sounds like it's going to be a really fun night there at Five Rocks Amphitheater. Now, with the number of riders that are taking place, have the organizers said anything about how that compares with other Tour de Nebraska events? If it's, the largest number that they've had, or have they given any indication one way or the other?
My last conversations with Charlie, they were thrilled with the 460, which I think is a great number of riders. They limit it to 500, but they were very pleased with the 460 that are pre-registered. The interesting thing is the majority of the riders in the past have been from Nebraska, and where there's a great contingent of Nebraska riders, they have a lot of riders that have registered from both Colorado and Wyoming.
Wow.
So this will be a multi-state Tour de Nebraska this year, so we're really excited to welcome not only our riders from our own state, but from the surrounding states as well.
And really an opportunity to maybe convince some of those folks that, hey, this is a place to come back to on a tourism basis.
That is absolutely our plan. We know from talking with many other guests that have been here in the past couple of years that all you have to do is get them here once. And they honestly just fall in love with the beauty of western Nebraska, and it's usually not very hard to twist their arm to get them to come back for a second trip, and maybe they'll bring their families. A lot of people come back to plan family reunions just because of the amount of activity that we have here.
Yeah, and of course, when they're on the roadways, there is a safety aspect that we all have to consider. And we'll be back in a moment on News Extra and talk to you about that. And we're back on News Extra, and we're talking about the Tour de Nebraska, which is coming up later this week, starting off in Sidney, making its way through Kimball, with stops in Gering, then Scottsbluff, and routing back through Bridgeport, and then back into Sidney. And I have Brenda Leisy with the Scottsbluff Tourism Department, as well as Gering Convention and Visitors Bureau Director Karla Nieden-Streeks. Again, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Safety, of course, one of the things that we do want to touch on. We did have training sessions that were made available by KT Bradshaw with the Western Nebraska Bicycling Club last week and over the weekend. But we do want to talk a little bit about, we're going to have 460 plus people out on bicycles out on the roads, and drivers need to be aware.
And it's something that we all need to be cognizant, aware of at all times, but especially with the Tour de Nebraska coming in. 460 riders, they won't all arrive in one mass. They'll arrive in small groups and be riding in small groups and individuals. So for those of us in our communities, it's very important that we remember the rules and heed caution and show the greatest hospitality and safety we can to those riders coming in. Many of them won't be familiar with our area, so it'll be the first time they've ridden into our area. So they're on great routes, which we're going to get some of that information out on all the websites, the community websites, over the weekend and the first part of the week, so that everybody locally will know where those riders are coming in. But we want people to be cognizant, we want them to be aware, and we want them to be hospitable to those riders and make sure that everybody is safe and happy when they come into our communities.
Yeah, and of course, the one thing to definitely remember is the 3-foot rule, which Nebraska does have in statute, and I'm sure our local law enforcement will be out and helping keep an eye out on for folks to make sure that the drivers are being courteous to all of these bicyclists, because you see more and more bicycles out on our roads during these good weather times during the spring, summer, and fall, but this is going to be a whole lot more than usual.
And it really is. I mean, it's going to be a great phenomenon for our communities to have them here. But we all need to be cognizant and aware. And keep in mind, this is kind of an at-leisure race. So they're going to be doing things in our community both days, on Thursday and Friday. Mm-hmm. So you're going to see cyclists not only on the main highways, but in our downtown areas as well. So be cognizant, be aware, heed them, and let them have the space that they need. And let's all be safe and let them have a great experience in our communities.
Mm-hmm. And of course, they will be in the Scottsbluff area, or basing themselves out of Scottsbluff that Friday night.
Yes.
As well, with a bunch of different events, again, trickling in.
Correct.
with events taking place into the evening, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
We have a great downtown event planned, of course, in the 18th Street Plaza. That entire event is sponsored by the Flyover Brewery. We are bringing in some great choices of all of our favorite foods from the community, a little bit of Italian food, Mexican food, but a great way to welcome these folks as well. And then a street closure will also allow people to move about and be able to communicate with the bicyclists and communicate with them. So that's always a great idea as we pulled this event together, to have a lot of space for them to travel around our community. And plus the stores will also be open a little bit later that evening. So we welcome them into the whole downtown area. Yeah,
and the other communities throughout the Panhandle that will also be hosting overnights will be doing the very same thing. A real good effort, or a good opportunity, I should say, for basically the entire southern Panhandle to put forward their best foot and extend a welcoming hand and welcome all of these bicyclists that are going to be here, the 460 plus, for the Tour de Nebraska coming up this week. Ladies, thank you very much for joining us on News Extra today.
Thank you.
Bye.